As for the sermon, you know that we have been speaking about the various things that the priest uses to do the service, starting with the vestments, then with the items inside of the altar. What did we talk about last week? We talked about the bread the week before, I thought. But it's close. What did we talk about last week? The plate. And what's the word for the plate in Greek? The disko, or sometimes the diskarion, which is the little plate. Yeah? So, the plate on which we place the body of the Lord, the amno, the lamb. But how do we cut it out? Because the bread is a nice big full loaf, and it doesn't automatically get cut into that shape, right? We use this to cut it out. And this is something that has a great deal of the history and the tradition of the church in it. Because it's not exactly a knife, is it? What? It's not a dagger either. Can anyone guess what this shape is supposed to represent if you remember the story of the Lord's crucifixion? A spear. Why would it be a spear? He was pierced through the side while he was on the cross with a spear. Now, about the 5th or 6th century in Byzantium, somebody came back to Constantinople and said, "We found it. We found the spear that pierced the Lord's side," and they brought it back. And the use of the spear, of the lonchi, the lance, in the preparation service dates from that time. And you can argue, well, it couldn't possibly have been the real spear, and you can say, well, that definitely could have been the real spear. That spear would have been preserved. Whether it was or not is not important. What's important is that in using the spear, we make an active statement about the historicity. That's a nice $1,000,000 word for you. Say that in class on Monday. Say historicity in school, and your teachers will give you a gold star, or at least they ought to. It's a statement about the historicity of what we celebrate. This isn't just some story that people made up. It actually happened. The Lord was truly crucified. His side was truly pierced, and out of it flowed blood and water, which, if you study your science, is not a particularly pleasant subject. But when someone dies, the blood inside the body separates into the red and into the plasma. I'm not a scientist, so I read this from other people who are smarter than me. But that this happened is one of the proofs that the Lord truly died on the cross, and he was pierced with a spear. So the priest uses the lonchi, the lance, to cut out the amno. He cuts this side, and then on the top, and then on the bottom, and then he sticks it in underneath so that he can pick up the cube of bread that is called the amno, the lamb, which is what is consecrated, which is what we are about to receive, the body of the Lord. But as he does it, the last thing he does with the lance before he puts it aside is he says, one of the soldiers pierced his side with a lance, and he will pierce the lower left corner of the amno, of the lamb, and he'll say, and out of it came blood and water. And then he pours the wine into the chalice, and he pours a little bit of water. So what we do, what the priest does every Sunday, is he reenacts. He remembers the Lord's crucifixion. What we remember then, when we receive Christ, is not the crucifixion, because that's already been remembered there, with the lambs and everything. When we receive communion, we remember and we celebrate the resurrection. We don't receive the crucified Lord. We receive the risen Lord, who is present among us and who makes us holy. So, that's kind of complicated. Let's review. What is it? Lance. What's the Greek word for it? Lonchi. Can you say lonchi? Bravos. And why is it important? Because we use the lance, and it means it really happened. Somewhere, the real lance is still around. Whether in Constantinople, I don't know if they still have it or not, or somewhere else. There was a real lance that pierced the real side of the real Lord upon the cross. And through the shedding of his blood, we receive salvation. So, Lonki, history, real God. Cool? Have a good day in Sunday school. We'll see you. And a blessed Lent.